Well, hi, everybody, and happy Friday afternoon. Brendan Gulick and Anthony Moeglin with you from Browns Training Facility in Berea. This is the practice report after we heard from Kevin Stefanski and from two players, Myles Garrett and Elijah Moore, in a rambunctious, fun, loud locker room today here in Berea. Anthony, it's clear that the team is morale's high, life is good, everybody's feeling good about going into the weekend. It was in a lot of ways a normal Friday, but there is one very obvious thing that is not normal about today, and it's what we didn't hear from Kevin Stefanski. He did not name a starting quarterback for the weekend, essentially because he's not obligated to, even though he usually does, which I think raises some eyebrows. Did something happen that we don't know about? Is Kevin just not ready to name a starter yet? The speculation is going to probably take center stage for the next 36 hours or 48 hours now before the team kicks off in a big game with the Jaguars on Sunday.
Yeah, or is it as simple as DTR presents one set of challenges for the opponent, or Joe Flacco presents another set of challenges for the opponent, which is the Jaguars this week? You never know. It was very funny. It was such a Kevin response too. Like, he just was very like, not going to say it. Everyone kept asking the questions, and he's like, I don't need to say it, so I'm not going to say it. I thought Elijah Moore was getting close to saying that it was going to be Flacco, and then it feels like he remembered, like, Coach said, don't say anything about it, so I'm not going to. But no, it was there is going to be some speculation. I think that, and you mentioned this, the part of the practice that was open to the public and open to you was that Flacco got a lot of the first team reps and it had a lot of that work when it was open. So we'll see what it boils down to. My guess would be that it's going to be Flacco on Sunday for a number of different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I would think if both guys are, created equal, right? If it's truly not one guy's dealing with something and the other guy isn't, and obviously DTR is the one that we think is coming back from concussion protocol, but he's been out on the field, assuming that we know that it's status quo and everything is fine and there were no setbacks with anyone. Yeah, I'm inclined to say that Joe Flacco is probably the better option. But to your point, because their skill sets are so different, why give Jacksonville an extra couple days to game plan for whomever they think the starting quarterback may or may not be? I'm on board with that. I get that. Yeah. I just hope that they have the decision already made internally and not that it's truly coming down to what direction are we going to go here? And I'm inclined to believe that they know and they're not saying anything. I think that's probably reality.
Yeah, I kind of laughed when he said, we'll all find out on Sunday at kickoff, or whatever the exact quote was. I'm like, I'm hopeful that you guys know, but yeah, I guess we can speculate as much as we want on the outside, but we will certainly find out Sunday right around 1:00.
So Jacksonville's played really, really good football lately, and they are emerging as, believe it or not, you wouldn't have thought this maybe at the beginning of the year, a legitimate contender for potentially the best record in the AFC. They've played especially good football away from home. And given the way the Browns defense has performed these last couple weeks, I think there's a little bit of anxiety in the fan base, but I don't necessarily sense that in the locker room. I think they recognize Jacksonville's a pretty good football team. The fact that Denzel Ward is going to play this weekend or at least he should play this weekend, would be a huge step forward, because I think his absence looks pretty noticeable right now.
And another guy, too, that's really important. Obviously, Denzel's the headliner, but Cam Mitchell coming back off of IR
for sure
is massive, because, we talked about it the last 2 weeks, no sacks from the defensive line. And Jim Schwartz mentioned it yesterday in his press conference, how he got after those guys and really tried to light a fire on them. Well, it's really connected. That defensive line has been so great all year, not only because they're amazing and Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett work so well together, but because there's oftentimes nowhere to throw in the back end. And we've seen that the last 2 games with Denzel being out and with Cam Mitchell being out, that guys are kind of open, and when quarterbacks drop back to pass, they can be very quick. Last week, Matt Stafford had the quickest time to release at 2.4 seconds in all of the NFL. Like, I don't care who you are, you're not getting home when the quarterback's getting the ball out that quickly. So I think the defense getting healthier and the defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, kind of lighting a fire under those guys is going to provide some hopefully immediate dividends early on Sunday afternoon.
And so officially, Ward and Mitchell, as of today, are questionable. The team almost exclusively stays away from a probable designation. You're either out or questionable or playing. That's kind of how things have tended to go on the injury report. But I'm with you. I expect those guys to play this weekend. Amari Cooper is also questionable. Elijah Moore was asked in the locker room today how Cooper looked, and he said he looked pretty good. He looked essentially like his normal self. Take for that what you will. The Browns need Amari Cooper on the field.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever I don't think there's another way to say it that's more realistic than that. This offense looks pretty darn different when Amari's not out there, so they've got to find a way to get him healthy enough for Sunday.
It's truly amazing, that the narrative around this team has been injuries, and the fact that they continue to happen, and the fact that this team can still withstand them. But losing Amari Cooper would be a pretty detrimental blow, because then you're like, okay, you got two receivers, that are actually legit guys, and Cedric Tillman and Elijah Moore. While those guys are both very good players, it makes it really challenging to kind of execute the pass game, and it would just be such a huge problem if Amari can't go. So you're hopeful that he is able to go. And I think Stefanski even said it. He'd had his usual workload, I think was the quote that he said, which is a sign in the right direction, at least in my opinion.
So the Browns have played a bunch of road football here of late. And as you look at the last 5 games of the regular season, 3 of those 5 are going to be at home, obviously starting with the Jaguars this weekend. But the Jets and the Bears both come to Cleveland, with trips to Houston and Cincinnati still on the schedule. And, you can't control health, but this is the time of year where you're starting to hope that if you can figure out a way for your depth to be good enough and grind out wins, maybe the weather isn't as great this time of year in Northeast Ohio. And admittedly, we've had some good days here and there. The forecast for Sunday, it's still 48 hours away. You don't know for sure, but it looks like at a minimum, it could be a cold and wet day. I don't know how much you put into the whole, like, oh, well, they're coming from Jacksonville. It's nice and warm down there. Maybe it'll be difficult for them, because I don't know that always factors in. But I think the Browns have done a pretty good job this year of sort of like bringing their opposition down into the mud with them, right? Yep. And so find a way to just make Jacksonville play the kind of game you want to play. I think that could be an advantage for Cleveland.
Yeah, Miles said it not 30 minutes ago, but he was like, yeah, we don't play a pretty brand of football where it's an ugly, grindy football. And that's what December and January ball is all about. Like, who is going to be tougher? Who is going to, and especially like while this weather starts to change, like it has the potential on Sunday to be very ugly, like windy, rainy, maybe chilly a little bit. So, you get a team come up here and, just like you said, drag them down into the mud, be the enforcer, be the team that's more physical, more hard-nosed. And I think that'll prove to be fortunate, for the Browns. And, this team's 5-1 at home. There's a legit home field advantage at Cleveland Browns Stadium. They've had some luck. They've had a couple backup quarterbacks come in there. They might get another backup quarterback coming in again this week. So whoever it may be, I think this is a great opportunity for this Browns team to like really establish their will, drag this Jacksonville team down in the mud with them, and just muck it up and just escape with a victory. Doesn't have to be pretty, just have to have more points than the other team.
I think we should wrap here with what has a lot of people's interest right now, and it's Trevor Lawrence. Obviously suffered what looked to be a nasty-looking injury to his ankle last week. There was a lot of flack for not having a cart available to help him get off the field. But, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to pretend to be one, but I've certainly heard that if you can walk off a sprain, that sometimes that can be helpful. And sort of even just like the mental convincing yourself, like, I'm okay. And he got some help getting off the field and all that. But, gosh, I think I'm a little surprised with what I've seen practice film from Trevor Lawrence, down in Jacksonville this week, some of the stuff that's circulated on social media. His ankle looks pretty good to me. I guess I'm expecting him to play on Sunday. I would hope the Browns are too.
Yeah, my guess is the Browns are preparing for it. With what we've seen, it's been limited, and he has been limited in practice. He hasn't, gone through the full practice yet, but still, at this level, at this point in the season, the clips are funny because they're not even in full pads. Like everyone's in shells, everyone's in just t-shirts. And that's what it is at this point in the year. Like these guys are banged up. The practices aren't that big anyway. So seeing that it was like, you go from maybe getting one and you're, first of all, really glad doesn't have a huge injury, which it looked like it could have been. But, you're like, hey, maybe the Browns can get away with another backup coming into town, but we'll see. I think that's going to be one where they kind of hold it close to the vest too and make it a game time decision on Sunday.
We're going to find out. Browns and Jaguars on the shores of Lake Erie on what will probably be a quintessential December day in Northeast Ohio. We can only hope so, right? Fingers crossed. Right. Should be fun. It's a big game. The Browns did not necessarily anticipate at the beginning of the year that this would be a measuring stick kind of game, but Jacksonville has squarely put themselves in the thick of the playoff race. They look like one of the best teams in the AFC, and a win for Cleveland would certainly be impressive. For all the latest news and info on the Cleveland Browns leading up to kickoff, certainly during the game and with your immediate reaction post-game, we've got you covered on Browns Digest. You can follow us here on this YouTube channel. We'd certainly appreciate if you'd subscribe there. And also over on the website, brownsdigest.com. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Brendan Gulick, reporting live from Berea. We will see you down on Sunday afternoon down at the stadium.